As promised, in this lesson, we are going to solve inequalities. We're going to do a handful of examples. We're going to learn one new little rule thing that makes inequalities different. But other than that, spoiler alert, solving inequalities is basically the same as solving equations. And so I think you're going to find it pretty easy. Let's dive in and do this thing, right? So let's do examples. I think we have 4 to look at, but we'll see. So for all of these examples, the instructions are going to be solve and graph and graph. Solve and graph. Graph the solution if you want to put all those words. Either way, right? So we're going to practice some of what we learned in the last lesson. And we're going to do new things. So we're going to start with x plus 5 is greater than 12. So, looks scary? Maybe. All we do is basically pretend like this right here is an equals and solve it. It's going to be, once we get to multiplication division, I think that's on the last example we're going to do. There's one little thing that sometimes is different. But for the most part, we just pretend like that's an equals and move on with our life. So the 5 is added to the x. So to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. That cancels, leaving us with x is greater than positive. We're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger one, 7, right? So then we're going to graph the solution. So we're going to draw us a little number line. We're going to put our 0. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to put an open circle, right? Because it's just greater than, not greater than or equal to. So just open circle. We're shading in the greater than direction. There we go. No problem. Let's do another one. I think we can fit two on a page. On these, they're not that big. So let's do number 2. We add a line just for complete clarity. I don't know that we have to have it, but it'll be even neater that way. So 3 is less than or equal to b minus 1 1/3. Now, this 1 1/3 is subtracted from the b. It's negative, right? And so to get rid of it, we're going to add it to both sides. Plus 1 1/3. Plus 1 1/3. These cancel, leaving us with 4 1/3 is less than or equal to b. Now, I have alluded to before that we like to put the variable on the left. And so what we're going to do is for the last thing we do on this problem is we're going to trade places here, right? And so we're going to put the b over here and the 4 1/3 over on the right side. Now, when we do this, we've got to pay attention to our inequality because this is going to flip around. We need our alligator mouth to be facing the correct thing, right? So this greater than side goes with the b. So b is greater than or equal to 4 1/3. Okay, so let's graph it, all right? Draw our number line. Now, we could count by thirds if we wanted to, put a whole bunch of lines. I'm going to count by ones because I want to kind of show you what I expect for my students whenever we're doing kind of in between lines and kind of how I like to do it. So we're going to do the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since we're going to have some shenanigans, I'm going to label a couple of them so that we can see clearly what they are. And then I'm going to put another mark. I like to, when I'm in between, I like to kind of dot down and say this is 4 1/3, right? That's kind of the way I do it, right? So then we're going to put a closed circle because it's greater than or equal to this time. So we're going to do a filled in circle this time, and it's shaded in the greater than direction, so we're going to shade to the right, greater than in the positive direction. And there it is, right? It just dawned on me with that why sometimes people have trouble with inequalities in two variables. I just had an epiphany. I already made that Algebra 1 video, so I'll talk about that when I remake that video if I remember then. Because that's liable to be in a year or two when I remake it, at least. If I even do remake it. These are turning out decent, I think. So let's grab a couple with multiplication and division. Right? So let's do example 3. Example 3. Right? And we're going to do negative 5x is less than 45. Okay. So this negative 5 is multiplied onto the x. So to get rid of it, we're going to divide, right? So we're going to divide both sides by negative 5. Negative 5. That cancels, leaving us with just x. And then we've got negative 9. Now, the reason I didn't put the inequality symbol yet is because whenever we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, it takes and it flips that inequality. So this is going to turn into greater than. So x is greater than negative 9. Okay, does that make sense? We'll do another one here in just a second to make sure you understand what's happening. We're going to put our 0 mark on here, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to put an open circle, right? Oh, I need to label this as negative 9, right? I'm going to put an open circle because it's just greater than, and we're going to shade in the greater than direction, so to the positive side. There we go. No big deal. Let's do one more example, and then we will be through. And then in the last lesson, we'll do a couple big old fat ones. Multi-step. Multi-kill. That's old school video game nonsense. Okay, so for this one, we're going to do b divided by negative 8 is greater than or equal to negative 6. How is this negative 8 attached to the b? It is divided, so how do we get rid of it? Well, we're going to multiply by negative 8. Multiply by negative 8. Those cancel, leaving us with b. Now we multiplied by a negative, so it flips the inequality. Negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. Now, this one is going to give us an opportunity to kind of practice one more skill because we don't want to count by ones here. So you could count by 5s, you can count by 10s, you could count by 48s and just put one line. So for my students, this is the way I want you to think about what scale to do. What the rule of thumb is use as small a scale as makes sense. So we use 1s, we'd have to put 48 lines. And so that doesn't make sense. 2s is probably still kind of pushing it. You'd have to put 24 of the things. And 4s are hard to count by, kind of harder. And so we tend to go 1s, 2s, 5s, 10s, 15s, whatever else. So we could probably go by 5s or by 10s. I think 10s is reasonable on this. I could definitely see 5s being fine. All right, so let's count by 10s. Whenever you don't count by 1s, then you have to label at least some of your tick marks, right? So that we can know we're not counting by 1s. So we're going to do 10, 20, 30, and then 40 and 48. Now, for this one that's halfway between, we're going to do kind of like what we did with the fraction and label this as positive 48. Then we're going to do a closed circle, right? And we're going to shade in the less than direction. To the left, to the negative, all of those things. Okay, that's it. I say I've been prepping you for two lessons. In the last lesson, we're going to do some big old fat equations, solve them, and a big old fat inequality or two, and solve those. It's going to be a hoot. Hope to see you there. If you're not one of my students, all of these pre-algebra videos are available for free. If you are one of my students, do the video and your homework, and I'll see you in class. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what we can help you with. Goodbye.